Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Colliers session at the Real Estate Asia Summit. First off, a quick introduction. My name is Abhishek Bajpai, and I manage the Occupier Services platform for Colliers in Asia, based here in Singapore. I really do wish we could have done this in person, and I'm confident that in about 12 months or so, when we do this again, it will be done in person. But today, it's going to be a bit of a one-way conversation. I will ask for your indulgence, and over the next 15 to 20 minutes, I hope to take you through what I think is a very interesting topic called the Metaverse. There won't be time for a Q&A today, but if there's any questions, please do feel free to reach out to me, and I'll do my best to make the next 15 minutes as interesting as possible. Thank you.
We selected what we feel is a very interesting topic, the Metaverse. All of you have probably heard about what this is. Few of you might even know everything about the Metaverse, but I suspect most of you are wondering what this Metaverse conversation is really about. Well, I hope to answer some of these questions over the next 20 minutes as we scratch the surface of the topic. What are companies doing? What should companies and occupiers do? What are the opportunities and what are the risks? Let's find out. Let's start with the Metaverse in itself. What is it? Where did the name come from? No, it's not from Facebook. That's what everyone tends to think. The origin lies, in fact, in a science fiction novel from the 1990s by Neil Stephenson called Snow Crash. That's where the Metaverse was first referenced. And obviously, it's become famous in recent months because of Facebook's change of name, Microsoft's commitment to the Metaverse. So let's start with the actual definition. There are many, and I've just picked one. It is the next generation of the internet, a seamless convergence of our physical and digital lives, created a unified virtual community where we work, play, relax, transact, and socialize. But what does this really mean? In my view, if I was to summarize and simplify it, it's the future of the internet. Some people use this name synonymously with cyber world and cyberspace, and we also hear of terms like augmented and extended reality. In effect, using technology, both hardware and software, to create a more immersive internet experience is what the Metaverse is. And it's in its nascent stage. These are early days. There's a lot that we know. There are opportunities we can explore, but there's lots of unknowns. It's like the internet in the 1990s. You know, we knew that the opportunities are endless. There were things that we didn't even know would exist as technology caught up, and we're in the same phase with the Metaverse. There's lots that we think we can do, but there's probably many things that we haven't even thought about that will come into play as technology, both hardware and software, catches up. So let's have a look at the building blocks of the Metaverse. How was it formed? And I'm not going to go into the technical specifics, but this is just to give people a sense of how it all works. So it's based on blockchain technology. Everyone's probably got some idea. It's based on extended reality and augmented reality. The unit of exchange is cryptocurrency. We'll be more on that a bit later. And of course, it's a more immersive version of the internet where people have an avatar and interact with other people's avatar in a more immersive cyber world environment. And how has it really evolved? Well, the birth of the internet was 1991, and we've already seen where that's taken us. And this is really the next version or the evolution of the internet. 2003 was Second Life, which was really the beginning of the Metaverse, followed by Roblox in 2006. And then 2009 was when Bitcoin really started to take off. 2012, NFTs were introduced, though becoming much more popular today. Decentraland, one of the few metaverses in existence, came into being in 2015. 2016, everyone remembers Pokemon Go and the rage that it caused, bringing augmented reality into gaming. And of course, in 2020, we saw the first Metaverse concert. So looking at all of these building blocks, the question people ask is, well, is it really taking off or is it a fad? Let's have a look at some statistics. $54 billion are spent on virtual goods. That's way more than what people are spending on music. And that just gives people a sense of the scale. And as I've mentioned, we're just getting started. 60 billion messages on Roblox every day. That's how the new generation is interacting. Anyone with kids will know what I'm talking about. You know, they don't want to have conversations on the phone anymore. They're looking to go into the metaverse and meet the avatars of their friends. The GDP for Second Life was about 650 million in 2021, with around $80 million paid to its creators. So again, you can see how the numbers are just scaling up. NFTs have a current market cap of 41 billion, and this is going to grow exponentially. And Sandbox, which is another metaverse, already has 200 strategic partnerships. So the question of is it taking off? I think it's already taken off. Question now is where does it go? And how does virtual real estate really fit into all of this? How real estate really fits into the metaverse. A few stats here to consider. The average price of a land parcel is about 12,000 US dollars, and there's just shy of 300,000 parcels available across the big four platforms, as you can see on the slide. But what we really have to look at is 12,000 is really just the average. There are parcels going for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's really a function of location and a lot of other things. And there's some immediate questions that start to come into our minds. But what exactly am I buying? How is it secure? What stops people from creating more parcels of land right after I bought mine and diluting the value? And then these are really important questions. So I'll try and answer a few of those. What you're buying is effectively a digital asset or an NFT. And that's a whole other conversation if you don't know what an NFT is. But in a nutshell, it's a digital asset. It's yours. Nobody else can own it. That's the function of blockchain technology. That's how we ensure that what you buy is really just yours, and that's how we ensure that nobody else can really just add land into that world. Think about Bitcoin. If you know enough about Bitcoin, what you know is that there's only so many Bitcoins that can ever be mined. It's not possible to just increase the number. And the concept is very similar. Within one world, there's only a certain number of plots of land, and their value will go up and down depending on various factors. But one element of risk, and this is where the metaverse and the physical world are different, is you can create new worlds. There's 4 today, there might be 20 tomorrow. And at the moment, they're not interconnected. We don't know what the offerings of the other future worlds is likely to be. So the risk is not so much in that your parcel of land will become diluted in value because somebody will just add more land. It's more about new worlds coming up and therefore having an impact on the value of your land. So a lot of things will unfold over the next few years. And this really leads us to the next question. Why should occupiers look at the metaverse? Is it the time to look at it? Is it important? And why is it important? So there's a few points here, and I'm going to try and go through each of them with a little bit of detail. The first one is it adds a new dimension to the workplace. And what that means is, we maintain, and when we've said this before, this is not going to replace the physical office or the physical workplace. This just adds a new dimension. We talk about work from anywhere and a lot of those things. This is just about choice. This is about you can work from home, you can work from a coffee shop, you can even go into the metaverse and then work out of a digital coffee shop, so to speak. And again, the hybrid working in the virtual world is all about setting up training sessions, conferences, and in my view, it creates a much more immersive environment. So, is this the future of Zoom and Teams? We do all these video calls. In fact, the one I'm on at the moment is being recorded on Teams. But will we have an element of augmented reality, extended reality as we move into the future? Will these calls become much more real? And if they do, they'll become much more immersive. And that's, in my view, the charm of the digital world, because once you're in it, it's very immersive. And so therefore, the distractions are limited versus sitting at home on a Zoom or a Teams call. The third point is a very interesting one, diversity and inclusion. And I think this is something that the digital world offers that really allows us to remove biases, whether they're conscious or unconscious. Effectively, in the digital world, you have your own avatar, you can choose it. The environments are all going to be set up the way we think they should be set up. So the virtual element allows us to really get rid of, remove any kind of biases and really have an environment that's diverse, that's inclusive, and that's equitable. And in my view, this is really going to be a big impact that the metaverse will make if we set it up correctly. The next point is building and expanding your brand presence. And then this applies to all companies, but even more so to retailers. So retailers obviously want their brand to be recognized everywhere you go. And in the metaverse, if people start to congregate in certain places, in certain parcels of land, that's where you can do advertising. So it is going to open up opportunities for a lot of companies to increase their sales. They're already selling NFTs. You're going to see a lot more of that, but there's also going to be an opportunity of using the branding in the metaverse to then sell your products in the physical world. I'm in the metaverse. I had a look at some amazing shoes by Nike, and I go back and say, I want those shoes. Don't want the NFT. I want to actually get those shoes. So I go out of the metaverse, go online, buy those shoes. Again, this is really just expanding the ability of having more brand presence. This might even become the future of e-commerce. We don't quite know where it will be, but what is certain is it will add a new dimension, and it will undoubtedly be a new marketing channel if it doesn't take over completely. And finally, the opportunity to really create new business models and user experiences. As the metaverse really opens up, as technology advances, I suspect we'll find many, many new opportunities for people to, either make money or set up businesses. There will be things that we can't even think about that will open up. But really bringing it back to real estate, one thought is, well, co-working operators. Could this be a co-working opportunity? Rather than occupiers going and buying land, and we know that a lot of developers are doing that already, but could maybe a WeWork or an IWG go into the metaverse and buy certain parcels of land and set up co-working operations? Again, yes, it might just be a URL, but it's really going to be about where it's located. It's going to be about, is it, for lack of a better term, a cool place to be? And if it is, well, I want to go to the WeWork that's in the cool part of the metaverse. So could there be an operator play here? Can't say for sure, but I think it's definitely probable. Now, as we look at a lot of these benefits, and this is what stands today, I suspect a lot of this will change in the future as well. And I've really just simplified the benefits to make it easy for everyone to understand. There's still going to be lots of things to consider: technology, taxation, law, jurisdictions, regulations. But as we move along, I suspect again that a lot of this will find solutions to a lot of these things. And none of the challenges that I've mentioned are insurmountable. Yes, there will be challenges and there will be risks, and those need to be outlined as well. And I'm going to do that in the next section. But I think it's very, very clear that this is something occupiers need to look at. This is something that will definitely play a role in the occupier strategy in the future. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. So having spoken about the opportunities, let's now take a look at some challenges and risks. And there are quite a few that have to be addressed. So I'm going to go through each of these and spend just a little bit of time articulating my thoughts on each. Cybersecurity, that's the first and the big one. Even in today's day of the internet, we can see cybersecurity being a big risk. We're always plugging gaps. Companies are coming out with patches, but hacking remains an issue. And I think this will continue to be an issue in the metaverse, where the more immersive you get, the more you're open to potential hacking attacks. Proprietary information being shared either intentionally or unintentionally in the metaverse through avatars. What kind of a risk will that create? How are companies going to plug that gap? All of these remain questions, and we don't quite know how it's going to evolve, but the threat will definitely exist, and I'm certain companies will come up with solutions, and it'll be a little bit of a cat and mouse around solutions and new challenges coming up as this space evolves. Similarly, data privacy, which is another big potential issue that needs to be addressed. There's a few different things here. One is, third-party metaverses. How much of our private information will they have access to? How much access will they have to our movements, what we're doing? Will there be mechanisms to prevent them from tracking all of this? Or will they be tracking each and every move of ours, leading to privacy issues? It's, I wouldn't want somebody following me wherever I go through the course of my day. And the same applies to the metaverse to some extent. Similarly, for employers, once you're in the metaverse and you're going for a team meeting or a conference, how much of your private information will your employer have access to? What is the threshold? What are the ways to prevent it? What's your comfort level? All of these things will have to be addressed, because again, at the end of the day, the more the association and the immersiveness, the more open you are potentially to, privacy becoming an issue. And even at the personal level, and then we're seeing a little bit today with some of our kids, the interactions in the metaverse are not always easy to control. So, someone coming to you to have a discussion, one avatar to the other, what are the intended or unintended consequences of such interactions? How best can we control it? And as more of these interactions come into play, what are the things that we'll have to keep in mind, both as people entering the metaverse, but also as corporations? So again, these are all open questions, and we'll get a much better understanding of how this all plays out over the next few months and even years. Cryptocurrency obviously remains a risk. The unit of exchange in the metaverse is cryptocurrency, and we've seen over the last few years how volatile cryptocurrency can be and what is going to be the impact of that volatility in the metaverse, where everything you're technically buying and selling will be using cryptocurrency. As an example, if you buy some virtual real estate in one of the metaverses, what is the implication of the price rise? Is it rising because there's a huge amount of demand, or is the price rising because you just happen to find that right location where everyone wants to congregate, leading to an increase in price? Or is it just a cryptocurrency play where the cryptocurrency value increased and therefore the property prices increased? Because if that is the case, then obviously the downside risks are just as high. So for the metaverse to be really sustainable, there will have to be a solution around bringing more stability into the cryptocurrencies being used in the metaverse. Technology, both on the hardware and the software side, is something we'll have to consider. Today, the best way to experience the metaverse is through headsets, and they're not that easy to access. They're bulky, they're probably quite expensive. So as technology advances, I have no doubt this will become easier. They'll be cheaper, easier to use, easier to access. But today, it does remain a bit of a challenge. And then similarly on the software side, there are certain challenges that remain, and we'll just have to work through what that means. The experience will just continue to get better. There will be more and more ways to use the metaverse as software advances, as well as hardware. I have no doubt that over the next few years, technology will advance and opportunities that we're not even aware of will open up. But again, as we stand today, these are some things to be a bit concerned about and just to watch the space. And then finally, last but not the least, sustainability. It's a big topic of discussion in today's world, and there are two opposing views on this, or not even opposing, but two views that offset each other to some extent. One aspect is that everything we do in the metaverse is digitized. So any consumption in the metaverse is digital consumption, and therefore you're reducing potentially some consumption in the real world, and that is good for sustainability. But on the flip side, the more the metaverse picks up, the more the cloud computing needs, the more the need for data centers, the more the need for power, which is kind of the other side of sustainability. To what extent will one offset the other remains to be seen, but it's definitely something that everyone will be watching very closely. So as we look at the risks and the challenges, one thing to note is that this will evolve. These are the challenges and the risks that we see today based on what we know today. But as we've seen with the internet, as the metaverse evolves, as new ideas, new software, new technology comes into place, some of these risks will just be solved immediately, and there'll be new risks that we haven't even thought about that potentially will come up. So again, this is just the beginning of reviewing where the challenges are today, but it's going to be a story that will continue to evolve in the days ahead. And so how do you prepare yourself for the metaverse? What do you really need to do? We're not really going to talk about longer term needs here. We just want to talk about where we stand today and what is it that we need to focus on. And it's really just a few things. Get up to speed, understand what the needs are of your organization. Start getting a better understanding of the metaverse. What is it about? It's still in its nascent stages, but there's already a lot to learn. Start developing and evaluating some strategic options. Try and get an understanding of what your organization's viewpoint is and how can you start to think about the metaverse in your workplace strategy as we think about real estate and where and how the metaverse will become a part of this. And again, as we start to develop some solutions, some strategies, the way to move forward is to analyze, explore, and experiment. Not everything that we try will work, but the cost of failure at the moment is not very high. The cost of not doing anything, in my view, is very, very high. So now is the time to be a part of leading the conversation rather than following it. And to me, that is really the key here, that the more we as real estate experts focus on understanding the value of the metaverse, the more we'll be in a position to lead this discussion as we go forward. So what's next? Well, to summarize, we believe that the metaverse will be complementary to the physical world. It is not going to be a replacement. So when we talk about office strategy in the workplace, we don't see this as a replacement. As we said in the very beginning, we see this as an added dimension to the different options you already have. It's time to start investigating the opportunity, and I'm sure it will evolve in the future. And with that, I would like to thank everybody for listening in. If you want to know more about the metaverse and how best to navigate through the various opportunities, please don't hesitate to contact us. At Colliers, we very much intend to be at the forefront of this conversation, guiding our clients on what promises to be a very exciting journey. Thank you for your time.